going on, y'all? It's your boy, Wisco Madman, coming at you with another episode of Wisco Investigates. So, we're checking out the autopsy. This time, it's called the Full Investigative Report, Autopsy and Toxicology Report from Kiely Rodni's case. That is from Zavgirl's channel. I listened to this one while I was at work and kind of went over it, seeing if there was going to be good detail. I believe Zav did a good job of covering the basics on the full everything that's in it. So we'll go ahead and check that out. I just want to make a mention. I am dealing with a sinus infection, so you guys please bear with me here. And you might see some wardrobe change and stuff like that because I'm not sure if I'm going to complete the whole recording here in one sitting or if I might do a little multi-day. We'll see how I feel. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump up in it.
Hey guys, so those of you that didn't see my live earlier, the results came in. We got back the results from our FOIA request. The toxicology, the autopsy, the cause of death, everything. It came early. I know it's supposed to be November 1st, but it came early, so I'm going to read it for you guys. So I did it over live last night, but I wanted to give you guys a read-through. I asked if you'd rather me read it or just show you it. Everybody said read it. Well, not everybody, but the majority said read it. So I'm just going to read it for you guys. I'm probably just going to keep any of my remarks or opinions to myself. I might point out a few things, but if you want to know more in depth, you could watch the live. Let's do this. Okay, so here is the coroner final report of investigation, final classification accident, date of death 8/21/22, time found 2033, which is 8:33 p.m. Deputy assigned Mackey. Decedent's identifying information. First name Kiely, May Rodni, date of birth 9/1/2005, age 16, sex female, race white, height 5'5", which I found that kind of odd because on the flyers it said 5'7". Maybe the family just didn't know. Her weight 103, which on the flyer it said 118, but I guess weight, the family doesn't necessarily know her weight, so that's a little different though. Hair blonde, eyes hazel, never married, remains identified by or how identified Detective Strachan during the autopsy. Relatives Lindsay Newman, mother. Place of death Prosser Creek Reservoir, City Truckee, County Nevada, State California, zip code 96161. Remains death reported by private dive company. Removed to coroner, yes. Type of medical exam, autopsy. Cause of death, drowning. Other significant conditions.
If y'all haven't watched my other videos or you haven't been watching this case, I just thought I'd throw it out there. Adventures with Purpose is the private dive team that found them. They have their own YouTube channel. I did a review of that episode, and you can check that out, or you can check out their episode directly on their channels. On their channel, just search Adventures with Purpose Kiely Rodni.
None. Injury information. Manner of death, accident. Place of death, Prosser Creek Reservoir. At work, no. Date of injury is 8/2022, so they didn't put a date in there. And I'm the one that highlighted some of these.
Okay, so I'm going to note that they just said that she died in August. They didn't actually clarify an exact date in the autopsy. Or at least, I think this is the autopsy, not the, I don't know. Is this? God damn it. So what are we at? We're at 203. I'm just going to skip backwards quick. Coroner final report of investigation. Okay, so this is the coroner. So I would call that pretty much the autopsy results or part of the autopsy report. It's
and I'm the one that highlighted some of these, I feel like, important or interesting things that I felt like I wanted to highlight for you guys. So if you see some things highlighted, that's what I did. Okay, so I'm not sure what all these stand for. Unknown, that's unknown. I don't know what these two could be found, but then what is EST? I don't know, guys. So I tried to look it up and I couldn't find anything, but it looks like they.
So what I would assume is FND, EST, UNK. I don't know what those stand for, but obviously they chose, well, did they choose UNK or is that a check mark box?
The answer is unknown.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I guess they chose UNK, but I don't know what they mean by unknown.
Address, Prosser Creek Reservoir, City, Truckee, County, Nevada, State, California, zip code 96161. Describe how the injury occurred. Decedent drowned in a lake while inside her vehicle. Case summary. As
Hold on. So they say, how did the injury occur? She drowned in a lake. Is that they wrote that as part of the report because that's what they found in the autopsy, or they're assuming based on the circumstances of finding her vehicle there and her body there? I don't, you know what I mean?
Required by Government Code Section 27491, an inquiry was made into the
as
death
of
of the
10,
subject of this report.
11,
It is the duty of the
22.
coroner to inquire into and determine the circumstances, manner, and cause of all violent, sudden, or unusual deaths, unattended deaths, or deaths where the deceased has not been attended by either a physician or a registered nurse. The investigation includes a review of the circumstances and or scene, medical history, and an autopsy, as required. This case was reviewed by a forensic pathologist who concluded that the subject died as indicated in this report. 10/11/22. Just a couple days ago is when he signed that. It was on my birthday. So it just gives the case number, case type, coroner, reporting officer, Jason Mackey. Report date 8/21. Okay, number 1. Decedent Kiely May Rodni. So date of birth 9/1/2005, age 16, sex female, race white.
Gotta love Google. You search UNK in a coroner's report, and anything that pops up is University of Nebraska Kearney. Thanks, guys. That's helpful.
Ethnicity, I guess they don't have one. I think N's just no, right? Height 5'5", weight 103, blonde hair, hazel eyes, residency.
This part's not overly important to me. I gotta go plug my phone in quick, so I'm gonna let you guys play through this.
2, build S.
I'm listening, I promise.
Fair, I guess, even though it's not spelled right, and it's, but yeah, I'm sure that means fair. Juvenile, no. Business, no. Non-disclosure, no. DNA taken, no. DNA refused, no. Nevada County Sheriff's Office. Nevada County Sheriff's Office case 12202-506, reported by Deputy J. Mackey. Date 8/21/22. Time
that
18.
Long. Deputy J. Mackey is who is the reporting officer in the case.
58. Time of arrival on scene, which that's 6:58. That's the time of arrival on scene. Location, Prosser Creek Reservoir. That gives the coordinates. Date reported 8/6/22. Time reported 10:07. Date of death 8/21. Time of death 20:33. Time death pronounced 20:33, that's 8:33 p.m. on 8/21/2022 by Deputy J.
Okay, so I just want to make a note here. 2033, which is 8:33 p.m. was the supposed time of death, is what they're writing. Which, that's not how time of death works. Like, wouldn't they do some sort of finding in an autopsy? From my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, guys, but wouldn't you estimate a time of death based on the autopsy? And it certainly wasn't 8/21, because the accident date, or what the so many things are supposed here. So what I'm stating here is the theory, or at least what facts they have. Assuming that she drowned the night of the party, 8/6/2022 is what would be the date for the time of death. You know what I mean? So I don't understand date of death 21. That's date of found. That's not date of death. But whatever. Anyway, it's obviously they're the ones that are the professionals, but they're confusing the fuck out of me.
Jason Mackey, place of death, located in a 2013 Honda CRV, California plate 8YUR127. The vehicle was near GPS coordinates. Gives the coordinates. Organ tissue donor unknown. Contagious disease unknown. Medical information unknown. Cause of death pending investigation. Okay, so I just want to clear up the
Oh,
cause of
whoa, 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 whoa,
death
whoa, 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 whoa,
pending
whoa. Where?
investigation
Okay, well, let her
issue.
play
It's
through.
because
Hold
this
on.
report
She
was on
highlighted something on the
8/21
next page.
by the officer.
Yeah, so
So he's
that's
just
not the
telling
actual
you the
time of death. That's just the
scene.
time of the,
First of
yeah,
all, when they
when they
arrived,
found her. Yeah, that's not the
just
actual
everything that
death.
happened at the scene, and when they took her and transported her and stuff. So this
I'm
is
gonna try not to say
before
too much and actually
that they
let
had
Zav
all
go
those
through this.
results, okay? So that's why when he did this report on 8/21, he didn't know the cause of death yet. Okay? So that's why it says pending investigation. And that's probably also why it says marks, scars, or tattoos, none observed. Because it would have been under her clothes, on her hip. So that makes sense why it wasn't observed. Because this was just the scene what he saw from 8/21. He wouldn't have seen all the details. He wouldn't have got all the details from the pathologist or coroner or any of the medical team or anybody, any in-depth specific things. He wouldn't have seen that. So
Yeah, I
yeah, it
see
just
what
makes
she's
sense.
saying.
He wouldn't have seen her tattoo. He wouldn't know the cause of death yet. So just wanted to make a point to
This is almost like an intake report. It's not even actually results, but I know she's gonna get to it.
show you guys that because we were talking about that on the live. Sorry, when I originally did a live on this, I didn't even read it yet. So maybe I should have waited and read it so then
Zav.
I know what it is before I go live. Well, you live and you learn, and next time I won't just go live without reading it first myself, I mean. But I didn't. I had not read it yet, so I just went live. So this was the first time I'm seeing it was with you guys. So of course I missed things. You know,
Okay, so there was a part there if you didn't catch it. It said pending forensic pathologist report. So
and so yeah, I didn't absorb and realize a lot that I did after when I was able to actually read it and, more than once and think about it and absorb it and understand what it meant, right? And even look up things that I didn't understand. So anyway, yes, report date is 8/21. And like I said, if I would have read it first, I would have understood this, after I was able to really think about it. It's pending because they didn't know at that time. They were waiting for the results. So they had to wait for the forensic pathologist to give them the results. And so when they did get all the results from the autopsy and what they found out from their testing, then they were able to say the cause of death. So that's not really weird at all once you understand, okay? Okay, so let's continue with the report. Smoker, yes. Alcohol use, yes. Remains identified by pending forensic pathologist report. Marks, scars, tattoos, none observed. Personal physician, unknown. Personal dentist, unknown. Next of kin, Lindsay Rodney Newman and Daniel Rodney were contacted at California Highway Patrol's Truckee office at 21:45 hours on 8/21/2022 and notified there was a decedent located in the vehicle registered to Kiely Rodney. Positive identification was not able to be made at the time.
they're just eye drops. Don't get your panties in a bunch.
Based on circumstantial evidence, the decedent was believed to be Kiely Rodney. They were advised of the pending pathologist report for confirmation of identity and cause of death. Investigation. I was called to respond to Prosser Creek Reservoir to a peninsula southwest of Prosser Family Campground. I was advised a female decedent was located within the cargo space of the vehicle Kiely Rodney was reported to have been driving. I responded to the location to handle the coroner's case. Scene. I arrived on scene at approximately 1900 hours, which is 7, and FBI agents, FBI crime scene technicians, Placer County Sheriff's Office deputies, California Highway Patrol officers, Truckee Police Department's officers, and detectives from Nevada County Sheriff's Office were all near a tow truck. I spoke to Detective Sonia, who advised me that law and
So obviously, out of this, we have FBI's involved, we have Placer County's involved, we have CHP, California Highway Patrol, Truckee Police Department, Jesus, Nevada County. I'll have to look at the county lines again. I'm kind of curious. I've been thinking that as I hear, the murmurs and stuff, and if I'm not actually watching videos, I don't like to state murmurs or rumors or hearsay or any of that kind of shit until I actually see it in some sort of report, which I'm seeing here. But Placer County and Nevada County both were involved in this, so that's interesting to me. I mean, send all the help you can get, I guess, but I'd be curious to know what the actual jurisdiction was, but yeah, anyway.
Enforcement divers had hooked the tow truck's winch to a vehicle under the water and were assisting with recovering the vehicle. I waited until the vehicle was removed from the water and I was given permission to begin my investigation. Body position. There is a white female decedent located in the rear cargo compartment of the silver 2013 Honda CRV. The right leg of the decedent was against the pillar of the back seat and rested near the headrest. The remainder of the decedent was behind the seats and not visible from outside the vehicle. FBI agents and technicians donned Tyvek suits and protective gear and entered into the vehicle. The body was removed under my supervision by FBI agents and FBI crime
Tyvek suits, I use that in industrial cleaning too. That's that's pretty common, just to keep your clothes clean, guys.
scene technicians. The body was placed into a large black vinyl body bag, visually inspected, and the bag was sealed. No items were removed from the decedent's person, and the remains were later transported by Truckee Tahoe Mortuary directly to the Placer County morgue. Body condition. The body showed obvious signs of bloating, lividity, and decomposition. There was skin sloughing, and no positive identification could be made due to the decomposition present on the face. Mortuary. Detective Saunier told me the decedent was going to be transported directly to Placer County morgue and scheduled for examination on Tuesday. No mortuary photographs were taken by this investigator. Statements. I was advised by Detective Saunier that he believed that the decedent was Kiely Mae Rodni based on his investigation. I did not obtain any additional statements related to this case while I was on scene. Remains removed by Truckee Tahoe Mortuary funeral counselor Alyssa Babcock arrived on scene and transported the decedent's remains to Placer County's morgue facility at approximately 21:20 hours on 8/21.
Sorry, I'm noting down Alyssa Babcock. And she was a mortuary funeral counselor. Remains to Placer County's mortuary. So I'm guessing she's a morgue worker? Throw it in the comments if you know for sure, but obviously it says she's a funeral counselor. Which I think I'm just misunderstanding that, because I would imagine she works at the morgue, because I don't know why a funeral worker would be there. Unless, well, maybe it's different structure out in Truckee, I don't know. But I would think somebody from the morgue would be there.
2022. Property. No items of property were removed from the decedent. Any items taken from the scene will be noted in the supplemental reports by the investigator. Vehicle. I was told the silver 2013 Honda CRV was going to be towed by the FBI and taken to their facility in Sacramento for additional processing. I was advised the vehicle will then be returned to the Truckee, California Highway Patrol officer for their vehicle accident and investigation team to perform their investigation. Case disposition. The case is pending the forensic pathologist's findings for identification and cause of death. Forward to Chief Coroner Sergeant Clinkenbeard. End of report. Attachments for photographs of the scene and the decedent refer to details.
So we're going to note that to Chief Coroner Sergeant Clinkenbeard. So I'm noting these names and stuff just in case they come up in the future. I'm not noting them as any suspicions to any sort of responsibilities and mistakes or any of that kind of stuff. I mean, definitely there's theories thrown around on what happened through the autopsy or what happened through the investigation or any of that kind of stuff. But I'm just taking notes for future reference if need be. I do not have much of a solid developed theory on any of that. I mean, I have my opinions, but those are worthless as far as this is concerned until we wrap up any sort of case closed type thing. Being that the FBI is still investigating, as far as I'm aware, here in February. Last actual update I had heard was as of middle of December they were still investigating. So who knows? I don't know if this is going to go to cold case or what the hell this is going to go to, but I definitely don't think this is a case solved thing yet, and I'm definitely not comfortable with any sort of accidental drowning being the final cause, because there's just too many things that don't make sense.
Detective Saunier's supplemental report. Supplemental Deputy Damian Norden. August 23rd, 2022, 10:17 hours. Location, Donner Pass Road. Truckee Substation. Truckee, California, Nevada. Unit TK2. Watchguard not
Sorry,
available.
guys, I talked to myself.
So narrative. On August 23rd, 2022, at approximately 10:20 hours, I received a phone call from Captain Sam Brown. Captain Brown told me the decedent in case 122-02506 had been positively identified as Kiely Rodni. After I
just gonna throw that out there for anybody that kind of finds it weird that they state decedent in case, you know, X number. They don't talk to each other like that, I promise. Like, yes, they talk like normal people. I'm sure they didn't radio like, hey, I found case number. No, that's not how that works, guys. In case anybody was out there like, wait, what the fuck?
I spoke to Captain Brown, I called the decedent's parents, Daniel Rodni and Lindsay Rodni Newman. I offered to meet with Daniel and Lindsay, and they both told me to update them on the phone. I told Daniel and Lindsay the decedent had been positively identified as Kiely Rodni. End attachment.
I will throw this out here, guys. How did we positively identify her at that point? And if you're like, well, duh, we looked at her. If decomp was a thing, which it sounds like it was, not necessarily from this report yet, anyways, but from what I've heard, she was fairly decomposed. Like, you're not just going to identify a massively or partially decomposed body. Like, we didn't get into tattoos. We didn't get into, how does this part of the report here, you know, I'll circle with the mouse. This part of the report up here where it says narrative, how do they know that it's Kiely Rodni? It doesn't. And you gotta think, like, their responsibility is also to the parents. Why are they telling the parents that it's their daughter if they don't know for sure? And I know, guys, you're gonna get mad at me for saying anything about DNA and everything, but it's like, you know what I mean? Don't you just want to actually know for sure? I don't know. I can only know what I see in these videos. I'm not gonna go off. Well, I mean, if you have reference points, if you have other videos to suggest down in the comments or anything like that, like I've said in the past, like, great. But how do we know it was her? Definitely one of the things that bothers me. Whether I'm not necessarily saying it wasn't her. It's a question, guys. It's a question.
Non-disposition attached to and route with the main report.
You need a scientific way to identify.
Here we go. We got a case number for the incident report. Coroner, reporting officer Josephine Strachan. Report date 8/23/2022. Detective Joseph Strachan, 8/23/2022, approximately 8:30 hours. Placer County Morgue.
So she went to Placer County Morgue, and this report is from Nevada County. Man, this shit don't make sense to me. I mean, I don't know the area necessarily. I know of Tahoe and stuff, but I don't know their police structure or nothing, but it just seems so much inner department working. I would get, like, Truckee versus whatever county Truckee's in, whether it's Nevada or Placer. I think it's Placer. I may be wrong, but either way, I would understand, like, Truckee then Placer then FBI or something like that. Or, oh, I missed a level, my bad. Truckee, Placer, CHP then FBI. I get those kind of inner, but the inner same level, the inner county working just kind of seems weird.
On the above date and time, I attended the autopsy for decedent Kiely Rodni at the Placer County Morgue in Roseville. At the completion of the autopsy, I collected the following items of jewelry removed from the decedent. We have jewelry, miscellaneous jewelry. Yeah. 2 is jewelry, bracelets from right wrist, jewelry necklaces, jewelry rings. And they'll get more specific down below of where all the jewelry was. The items were transported to the sheriff's property unit and booked. End of supplement. Well, here we go. Incident report. Case type coroner. Reporting officer Jason Klinkenbeard.
Klinkenbeard's
back. So we have the sheriff's office. So reported by Sergeant Jason Klinkenbeard. Nevada County Sheriff's Office Coroner Division. Supplemental investigation. This report was forwarded to the coroner division by...
It's me, so anybody who's followed me knows that I kind of get ADD and like to joke about things, especially the wow, it's escaping me right now. The gallows humor, that's what it's called. So the laughing in times of sadness kind of thing. But sorry, Sergeant Clinkenbeard sounds like a pirate's name. Just saying. Sorry, ADD.
by Deputy Mackey with the Patrol Division. On August 23, 2022, Placer County forensic pathologist Dr. Gregory Reber, MD, performed an autopsy on the remains of Kiely May Rodni. Positive identification of the decedent had been made by a Detective Josephine Strachan during the autopsy. Detective Strachan was present during the autopsy and documented her observation and the method of identification in a supplemental report to the original missing persons report, NCSO case number 1220-2364, supplement report number 14. I've recently reviewed the pathologist's final report of autopsy, which listed the cause of death in this case as drowning. There were no other significant contributing conditions listed. I conferred with the Detective Saunier, and he told me there was no indication of foul play regarding the criminal investigation into the death of Kiely. The manner of death in this case has been determined to be accidental. Case disposition. Closed.
So this is where my problem is. Let's go back to that. Okay. So Reber's the one who did the autopsy, which is fine. Whatever. Presented the autopsy and documented our observations of the method. Okay. I have recently reviewed, as she just read it, the pathologist's final report of the autopsy, which listed the cause of death in this case, drowning. Okay. As long as it was based on her autopsy, like her actual body and not anything from the scene or anything like that, fine. There were no other significant contributing conditions listed, okay. I conferred with Detective Sonner, who I assume is the one that brought her in or was on the scene or something. And he told me there were no indication of foul play. Again, I'm not saying the shit was Sonner because it's fact. It doesn't necessarily matter to me. But a detective told the pathologist, the Reber, that there was no indication of foul play regarding the criminal investigation into the death of Kiely. Okay. So the manner of death in this case has been determined to be accidental. Do you guys see where I'm tripped up there? I somewhat get collaborating to come up with accidental or foul play, whatever. But why is the autopsy indicating an accidental death? Based on the scene. Based on a detective that was looking back at the lake. Wouldn't we base the manner of death in this case on the autopsy? The body? That's all the forensic pathologist should be basing it on, correct? Am I wrong? I'm not a forensic pathologist, obviously. I didn't go to school for that shit. Not even remotely. But my head hurts. Because I'm not getting the logic. Might be a little bit of a sinus infection, but it's because I don't understand the logic. Y'all, I know I'm not the only one.
Supplemental investigation. This report was forwarded to the coroner division by Deputy Mackey with the Patrol Division. On August 23, 2022, Placer County forensic pathologist Dr. Gregory Reber, MD, performed an autopsy on the remains of Kiely May Rodni. Positive identification of the decedent had been made by a Detective Josephine Strachan during the autopsy. Detective Strachan was present during the autopsy and documented her observation and the method of identification in a supplemental report to the original missing persons report, NCSO case number 1220-2364, supplement report number 14. I've recently reviewed the pathologist's final report of autopsy, which listed the cause of death in this case as drowning. There were no other significant contributing conditions listed. I conferred with the Detective Saunier, and he told me there was no indication of foul play regarding the criminal investigation into the death of Kiely. The manner of death in this case has been determined to be accidental. Case disposition. Closed. Accident. Attachments. Coroner cover, toxicology report, and autopsy report. Toxicology.
Let's be clear. When they say the case is closed, that's only coming from the autopsy for what? Nevada County? Is that what I'm understanding properly, even though this was done in Placer County? The case closed is based on Reber's autopsy. That's not based on what the FBI is doing. Okay? As far as I'm aware, that case is still open. That's what I got out of that. Case closed for the county level.
Your report. Report issued 9/30/2022 at 16:02. Patient name, Kiely May Rodni. Date of birth not given. It gives the ID and all that. So, Nevada County Coroner, Sergeant Jason Klinkenbeard. Positive findings. Ethanol. Result 88 units milligrams per 100.
Y'all have heard me debate about whether or not she actually had alcohol in her system. Obviously, that 88 is based on decomp and shit like that. There's all that shit's getting thrown around. There'll be more videos I'm going to do in the future. I believe Dr. Latina is somebody I'm going to pull from in the future when I review that and kind of get into more of the specifics based on that. But that 88, from what I've found just in my little searches and stuff like that, I would say, if anything, maybe she was drunk, but I wouldn't say like hammered, sloshed, none of that, you know. I know, I get where you guys are coming from when you say like all these witnesses or Sammy or the whatever Jane Doe person that said something or whatever. Oh, she was super drunk. Well, you know what I mean. So do I think she could have been not able to drive? I mean, legally, definitely, especially being underage. But as to the exact level of alcohol, I haven't concluded that in my head. I don't know what I would say about it. I definitely don't presume that she was so drunk she drove into the water. That's not a theory that's been floating in my head. I have generally let that theory kind of like, probably not. Not something that seems likely from what I've heard.
100 grams.
Oh, we also want to make a mention that she did pop positive for THC, guys. And anybody who knows anything about THC, it stays in your system an awful long time. I've heard a lot of people talk about THC in the way that she could have done it days ago, and they're like, oh, wow, it stays in your system so long, so I don't think she was high. Well, really? We're not going to talk about that it could have been an hour ago? Like, we don't have a legit test for, like, Insta-test, especially in an autopsy. I haven't heard anybody say as to how high she was. We don't know. Shit stays in fat cells forever.
Matrix source, liver tissue. Nicotine, presumptive positive. Caffeine, presumptive positive. Contenine, presumptive positive. Which contenine, I looked it up, and it's actually a metabolite of nicotine. Delta 9 carboxy THC, positive. So basically,
I don't understand why we even tested for nicotine. Why do we care? Caffeine. Why do we care?
for toxicology is showing that the
like, seriously, why do the cops even care if she had caffeine or nicotine? Okay, so nicotine, yeah, maybe she was doing it underage, but why does it matter? As to how she died, why does it matter?
positive findings in her system is ethanol, which is alcohol,
we're not guessing
which
she was
88 is not very high considering natural decomposition creates ethanol buildup in your body. And you'll see when they sum this up that they say that some, if not all, of the ethanol accounted for in Kiely's results is from decomposition. So they're saying some of this 88 milligrams, possibly all of it, is just from decomposition. So what that's showing is there's not a lot of alcohol in her system. Okay. So Sammy and everybody's saying how she was so drunk she couldn't even walk or talk. She was stumbling all over the place. Sammy said there's no way she would have been able to make it home. She would have crashed. What is that all about? Because
I know that she was not in the right mindset or state to drive. And if she were to have driven, she wouldn't have made it far. So
Just to throw it out here, obviously I already covered this kind of witnesses saying different things and everything, but I mean, I wouldn't say she wasn't drunk, but yeah, I definitely wouldn't say that their description of falling over drunk is accurate.
my concern is that somebody may have offered to drive her home and then didn't take her home.
Everything she drank, I drank out of. And there was nothing that seemed off about her.
I went up to her and I said,
Isn't Sammy over 18? Still underage drinking, of course. But, an adult giving a minor alcohol? Or being present when a minor is drinking alcohol? I mean, this is an investigation. I'm surprised we haven't heard more about that.
hey, I got another ride home because she was meant to be my ride home, but I knew she was too
But that's none
intoxicated
of
to
my
get me
business.
home. So I said, hey, I found another ride home. Like, I hope you stay safe. Like, I'll see you tomorrow. Like, I love you. Like, have fun and stuff. I think it's totally possible that somebody could have taken her and maybe offered to drive her home.
Just going around the party, we were drinking the same drinks. So then Kiely and I were going around taking shots and just drinking. We were trading drinks with each other. We were sharing drinks with each other.
Shit.
We would go back
Sorry.
to her car to get some alcohol sometimes. And then
there's just a few interviews. There's actually a couple more that she says about how much Kiely was drinking. There's a couple articles that she's quoted, but I just wanted to play you a few. All right, let's get back to the report. This doesn't show that. I mean, it shows possibly maybe she did have a couple drinks, but it doesn't show like all her being all drunk like everybody was saying.
I agree with the possible couple drinks. That is probably the most accurate non-bias that I've heard.
And Jane Doe too, or who all the other people that said they saw her. Some people, oh, my kids went to the party. They don't know her, but they saw her. She was stumbling around. She was drunk. Jane Doe. Oh, yeah. I saw her. Yeah, she tripped in a hole. She was, drunk. People saying, yeah, she was slurring her words. Oh, yeah, we warned her. We told her, don't drive. You're too intoxicated. You shouldn't be driving. All these people that came out supposedly saying that. I know most of it's hearsay because we don't know if these people that are claiming that were at the party are legit and they really were at the party, or people claiming that their kids were at the party, if they were indeed who they say they were, and if they were, the person that they saw that they're talking about was indeed Kiely. But we do know that Sammy said that it was for sure Kiely was so drunk that she never would have made it out of there without crashing. And then Jane Doe too, which we know who that is pretty much, and she said she was pretty drunk too. So it just makes me wonder, why are they saying that? Was it something else that she was all messed up with? But Sammy said alcohol. They drink out of the same cups. They shared their drinks and everything. But anyway, and I had Dr. Latina on, which her name is Dr. Amy Salerno. She's a board certified physician, 30 years experience. And she even said that this level is not high, especially when you take into account the decomposition, that ethanol will build up in your system from decomposition. So 88 is not high. And then there's a reporting limit, and the reporting limit for ethanol is only 80. So the reporting limit is the minimum amount that you have to have for a test to show positive, for it to even show up. And that's 80. And she only tested 88. So you see, that's not a high level. It almost didn't even hit that minimum. And some of this ethanol, if not all of the ethanol, is from decomposition. So where does all this, oh, she was so drunk, she never would have made it home. Where does all that talk come from? That doesn't make sense because the results are not showing it. Okay, so nicotine, presumptive positive. Caffeine, presumptive positive. Contenine, presumptive positive. And delta-9 carboxy THC, positive. So what does it look like? Maybe she had a drink, not much, if any. Did she have any alcohol? She was a smoker, drank some caffeine, and also weed. Now, we all know that weed stays in her system for a long time, so just because it's positive does not mean she smoked that night. I mean, we can't say for sure. That doesn't prove that. So she may have smoked that night, but we can't tell from that because it stays in your system long. Okay. So testing request, postmortem expanded tissue is the test name. Tests not performed, part or all of the requested testing was unable to be performed. Refer to the analysis summary and reporting limit section for details. Specimens, ID, tube container. Okay, it just tells you how the white cap plastic container, volume mass 58 grams, collection time 8:23, liver tissue. Homogeneous container, not given, 8:23, liver tissue. All sample volume weights are approximations. Specimens received on 8/26/2022. Okay, so here we go. Detailed findings, analysis, and comments. So remember, reporting limit, which I want to show you how they describe it. The reporting limit. So we understand what this is in their terminology. I summarized it up there what it is, but we'll see how they word it. So analysis, summary, and reporting limits. All of the following tests were performed for this case. For each test, the compounds listed were included in the scope. The reporting limit listed for each compound represents the lowest concentration of the compound that will be reported as being positive. If the compound is listed as none detected, it is not present above the reporting limit. Please refer to the positive findings section of the report for those compounds that were identified as being present. Okay, so you understand what the reporting limit is, right? So basically what it needs to, the minimum amount it needs to get to for it to test positive. Okay? So, ethanol, result 88. Here's the units. Reporting limit 80. So like I'm test positive. So we know 80 can't be a high amount if it needs to get there just to even have a positive test to be able to report it as positive. And hers was just 88 ethanol, which is alcohol. Okay? Now we have nicotine, presumptive positive. It doesn't give the amount, but it does give a reporting limit as 250. So it probably was at 250. Okay, so I wanted to look up and show you the presumptive positive and what that means. Okay. Toxicological testing procedures. The biggest problem facing the toxicologist is that there are literally thousands of drugs and chemicals that are harmful, addictive, or lethal if ingested, injected, or inhaled. Some even absorb directly through the skin. Toxicological testing is time-consuming and expensive, and few, if any, labs can afford to perform such testing on every case. For this reason, the testing must be as focused as possible.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. That's probably a lot of the answer as to why other things weren't tested. For example, fentanyl and stuff like that. But yeah, toxicology is a mess, that's for sure.
And understanding the circumstances surrounding the death is important since clues at the scene often point toward a particular drug. For example, a young girl found on her bed at home with an empty pill bottle at her side would lead to one avenue of testing, while a long-term addict found in an alley with fresh needle marks would follow another path. The more clues as to the likely toxin that the circumstances of the death can supply, the narrower the field of possibilities the toxicologist must consider. The two-tiered system. When testing for drugs or poison, the toxicologist typically follows a two-tiered approach. Initial tests, called presumptive tests, are for screening purposes and are typically easier and cheaper to perform. When negative, they indicate that the drug or class of drugs in question is not present and further testing is unnecessary. When positive, they indicate that a particular substance possibly is present. By using these screening tests, the number of possibilities can be greatly reduced, and the toxicologist can move on to the second phase, which utilizes more focused confirmatory testing. These tests are more expensive and time-consuming, but are designed to establish the identity of the exact drug present. The two-tiered approach saves considerable time and money. Okay.
I love how Zav highlighted where she was reading because it helps you follow, but that makes a lot more sense as to why we see on the tests like presumptive positives and shit like that, like presumptive tests that are cheaper and easier. That way they're not running more expensive tests unless they absolutely have to.
Okay, so I think that kind of gives you a good reason. It looks like basically they didn't do a more specific test. Like this should just be the first round of tests. You know, it's cheaper, and then if it's negative, they know that they don't need to get, a more specific, more expensive test, and they could let it go. Like for the nicotine and caffeine and contanine, yeah, just keep it presumptive positive, right?
Yeah,
the weed, I
it doesn't
guess,
really matter.
that's another one that it wouldn't be that big of a deal, because think about it. The weed, you can't prove that she smoked it that day. I mean,
Yeah, my thing would be, I wish we could know for sure how high she was. That would, if there was a confirmatory test to say exactly and immediate how high she was, that would be nice. But I don't believe those tests are that accurate or exist for that matter. If they, I don't know if they exist, but if they do exist, I don't think they're that accurate.
that stays in your system so long, so that's not going to really tell you much about her death. Okay, because she could have smoked it 2 weeks ago or a week ago, or
Right,
so
right.
let's say these all came up positive. Which ones would be important
That's
to take that
those
extra
stories.
step and make sure what they are, right?
Yeah, those who aren't aware, THC tends to bind to fat cells, so that's why it stays in your system so insanely long. And the more often somebody smokes, the more it builds up in their system, and the longer it takes to clear out of their system. That's why it's a difficult drug to test whether or not somebody's actually high.
Like how much alcohol for
And obviously, I'm no expert, but these are just things that I've learned.
sure. And then these four, I wouldn't even think that you would need to. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, presumptive positive, that's fine. I mean, we don't need to go further into it to make sure what the amount is, but alcohol, yes, that's important. And we do have an actual amount on alcohol. So we got that. Now, as far as all these other ones that they tested down here, none of them came up positive on their first round of tests. You know what I'm saying? On the however they tested. So they didn't need to go into a more specific, more expensive test for these because they didn't hit the reporting limit. So that makes sense why they did that like that. I mean, that makes sense why that just says presumptive. Are you guys understanding? Why go to the second phase with the ones for nicotine or weed, which weed's not going to tell you much because it stays in your system so long, or cigarettes or caffeine? You don't need to. Alcohol, yeah, but we got the alcohol number. So, and then nothing else came up positive. So, does that make sense, guys? Well, let me clear that up. Nothing else they tested came up positive. So look, let me just read a couple more of these paragraphs because it might kind of sum up a little bit better. So to be doubly certain, the toxicologist prefers to find the drug or poison in at least 2 separate locations. Finding the toxin in the blood and the liver tissue is more reassuring than finding it in either one alone. So I'm not sure why they didn't do it from blood. Maybe they weren't able to because of this situation. I don't know. But
yeah,
it would have been better to get it in the blood and the...
I wonder if the blood would have been contaminated from being in the water and stuff. I don't know. I mean, I guess everything's kind of contaminated. I don't know.
Liver. And we heard from Dr. Latina that the vitreous humor, we weren't able to because the eyes were probably not healthy enough. They're probably damaged from being submerged in water. Let's finish. Or let's say that the toxicologist is asked to test a seized substance and doing so shows a positive presumptive test for cocaine. Further confirmatory testing would be indicated. If the screening test is negative, the substance may be analyzed for other drugs, but cocaine has been ruled out. So since all those other drugs that they tested for were negative, they didn't need to do another test. They'd been ruled out. In most labs, testing for controlled and illegal drugs consumes 70% of the lab's time and resources. The areas most often tested in this type of examinations are blood and urine. After one of the presumptive tests shows that a particular drug or class of drugs is likely present, confirmatory testing with the combination of gas chromatography and mass spectrometry or infrared spectroscopy are used to accurately identify which substance is present. Okay, so let's get back to the report. Presumptive positive, this test is an unconfirmed screen. Confirmation by a more definitive technique such as GCMS is recommended. Caffeine, presumptive positive, shows the reported limit. Contanine, presumptive positive, reported limit 50. So these don't even have what she tested. It doesn't have an amount for some reason. Dr. Latina said, I'm just going to call her Dr. Solano because that's her real name. Dr. Solano said that she doesn't know why they didn't just put the result, but maybe it's just like barely met the minimum. She doesn't know why though. But remember, this is the reporting limit. This isn't the amount in Kiely's system. This is what it needs to meet. The minimum it needs to meet to test positive. I know I keep repeating it, but I just want to make sure you guys understand this, especially for the next section. Okay. Delta 9 carboxy THC positive. It doesn't give an amount either, but it just says positive. The reporting limit's 20. Ethanol confirmed. Reporting limit 40. Other than the above findings, examination of the specimen submitted did not reveal any positive findings of toxicological significance by procedures outlined in the accompanying analysis summary. Reference comments. Delta 9 carboxy THC inactive metabolite liver tissue. Delta 9 THC is the principal psychoactive ingredient of marijuana hashish. Delta 9 carboxy THC is the inactive metabolite of THC. Ethanol, ethyl alcohol, liver tissue, ethyl alcohol, ethanol, drinking alcohol is a central nervous system depressant and can cause effects such as impaired judgment, reduced alertness, and impaired muscular coordination. Ethanol can also be a product of the
And I know I'm not saying a whole lot here, guys, on this portion where she goes over different information and reference comments and different things like that. Sometimes there's just not an opinion to be had. She's just stating the facts, and I'm really just taking it in and understanding, specifics back towards what exactly data they pulled from the autopsy, what information they have from the autopsy. So this is just all informational for that part. So we'll definitely continue on through this so we are sure when we're reviewing this stuff, because every little bit of these details is helpful in understanding the autopsy and toxicology for that matter.
Decomposition of or degradation of biological samples. Sample comments. Tissue specimen required homogenization. Labs generated homogenized tissue sample. Due to the nature of this specimen, some analytes may not be detected by GCMS qualitative analysis. Unless alternative arrangements are made by you, the remainder of the submitted specimens will be discarded 1 year from the date of this report, and generated data will be discarded 5 years from the date the analysis were performed. Work order was electronically signed by Brianna L. Peterson, PhD, forensic toxicologist. Analysis summary and reporting limits. All of the following tests were performed for this case. For each test, the compounds listed were included in the scope. So I'm going to read this again, the reporting limit. It's really important. The reporting limit listed for each compound represents the lowest concentration of the compound that will be reported as being positive. If the compound is listed as none detected, it is not present above the reporting limit. Please refer to the positive findings section of the report for those compounds that were identified as being present. Cannabinoids confirmation, qualitative tissue, liver tissue. Analysis summary and reporting limits. Analysis by high performance liquid chromatography, tandem mass spectrometry, analyte 11 hydroxy delta 9 THC, reported limit 4.0, analyte delta 9 THC, reported limit not available, delta 9 carboxy THC, reported limit 20, not reported delta 9 THC, canceled due to sample matrix problem. So tests 50014Ti, cocaine and metabolites confirmation, tissue, liver tissue. Analysis by gas chromatography, mass spectrometry, analyte, benzoligonine.
So they had some problem in the confirmatory test for the delta 9 THC is my understanding, and yeah, it would have been nice to at least have a number to know if it was at 20 nanograms or 100 nanograms or whatever. So we had something to reference and research and see, how concentrated that meant. But there again, if she's a frequent smoker or a frequent user of marijuana products, THC products, we have no way of knowing how much was actually of current and how much was just of lifetime use type shit or frequent use type shit.
The reported limit's 200. Okay, so benzoligonine is a metabolite of cocaine. So cocaine and metabolite. Interpretation. The presence of cocaine, LOQ, indicates exposure to cocaine within 1 day prior to specimen collection. The presence of benzoligonine, LOQ, indicates exposure to cocaine within 5 days prior to specimen collection. Metabolites. Cocaine is metabolized to several inactive metabolites, the predominant one being benzoylecgonine. Okay, so we have
So
confirmation
benzoylecgonine
tests.
is what we're
Cocaine
looking for
confirmation
for
urine. So this is
cocaine.
for urine, but it just shows you in urine how long
So cocaine
the
is less
detection
than a
time.
day,
It's another
and benzoylecgonine
Autopsy
is 5 days.
Benzoylecgonine is the major metabolite of cocaine. It is formed by hydrolysis of cocaine in the liver, catalyzed by carboxylesterases, is excreted in the urine of cocaine users after processing in the liver. It is the main pharmaceutical ingredient in the investigational drug Esterim, a topical solution used for the relief of muscle pain that is not FDA approved or on the market in the United States. But yeah, so it just basically shows you. So yeah, I just wanted to show you that. Cocaethylene, 160. So since I showed you the other metabolite of cocaine, I want to show you this one, the cocaethylene or cocaethylene. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but this one's kind of interesting. So how is cocaethylene produced? Whenever a person consumes any substance, there are a number of waste products, and some substances can build up in the system and be harmful. When certain harmful substances and or waste products accrue in the bloodstream, they are processed through the liver, where the natural process of metabolism breaks them down so they can be eliminated from the body, typically through urine. Cocaine and alcohol are toxic substances that are harmful to the bodily tissues, and they are removed from the bloodstream and metabolized in the liver in order to eliminate them from the body. When an individual uses alcohol and cocaine at the same time, cocaethylene develops in the liver as a result of the metabolic processing of both alcohol and cocaine. It is hypothesized that cocaethylene develops in the liver as a result of the metabolism of cocaine being altered by the presence of alcohol. Researchers believe that cocaethylene is produced in the liver about 2 hours after an individual has used the two drugs. Researchers suggest that about 20% of the cocaine being metabolized in the liver is disrupted by alcohol, producing cocaethylene. And when the liver attempts to eliminate the cocaethylene it has produced, the alcohol in the system slows down the process, leaving about 20% of the cocaethylene remaining in the system. As individuals continue to drink alcohol, this continued alcohol consumption begins to disrupt the elimination of cocaethylene in the liver, and it begins to pass from the liver into the bloodstream, where it can affect a number of tissues and organs. The addition of the cocaethylene to the alcohol and cocaine already in the system can produce effects that are much more powerful than the effects that alcohol or cocaine alone produce. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I mean, even though she didn't test positive for cocaine, but I like learning new things like that. Interesting. Okay, let's get back to the report. Now remember.
So the one thing I gained from all the stuff she went over with cocaine and cocaethylene and benzoylecgonine, whatever, is that even though she didn't have it on her test, cocaine would show for less than a day is what the testing limit seemed to be, and cocaethylene, benzoylecgonine, that's right, benzoylecgonine is 5 days. So it looks like within 5 days, if she tested negative for both, there was none of that in her system, then she was, whether she's ever done cocaine or whether, she wasn't doing cocaine at the time, that's clearing that 5 days from when she died. She had no cocaine intake, is my understanding then, based on this autopsy.
Remember, this is showing everything that they tested for. We already saw what was positive. Okay, we already saw what was in our system. We just went over it. This is just showing what they tested. Okay, so don't get this wrong. Don't misunderstand this.
Right.
These are just reporting limits.
She didn't
Okay,
have cocaine in
this
her
is
system.
not what
Gotcha.
was in her system. They're not showing like, oh yeah, she has this in her system. No, this is just everything they tested. We already saw what she had in her system. Okay, now let's see what they tested for. Okay, so I already read the THC, so let's continue here. Cocaine and metabolites confirmation, tissue, liver tissue. Analysis by gas chromatography, mass spectrometry for analyte benzoylecgonine, the reported limit's 200, cocaethylene, 160. So these weren't in our system. They tested for cocaethylene and benzoylecgonine, but it was.
Which I don't know a whole lot about cocaine. I've never touched the shit myself, but in comparison to THC, the testings obviously a lot higher nanogram count than THC's 20 nanograms. That's just something I noticed that's interesting.
Wasn't in her toxicology. It wasn't in her positive. Okay. This is just the reporting limit. It had to hit 200 for it to even show up positive, but it didn't because we already saw what she tested positive for. Cocaine, 160, so nope. They tested for cocaine. It wasn't in her positive results. Alcohols and acetone conformation, tissue, liver tissue. Analysis by headspace gas chromatography for analyte, acetone, ethanol, isopropanol, methanol. So we know ethanol was in her system, but this is just showing, like I said, what they tested. Postmortem expanded tissue, forensic liver tissue, analysis by colorimetry for analyte, salicylates, reported limit 800 micrograms. What is salicylates? Let's see. Salicylates is, so the test measures the amount of salicylates in the blood. They're a type of drug found in aspirin and other medicines. Well, I mean, why did they even test for that? Why? It's a method of determining the concentration of a chemical element or chemical compound in a solution with the aid of a color reagent. So that was how the test was done, but quantitative technique used to measure the concentration of a given substance in a solution. That's what the colorimetry test is, but why did they want to test for the salicylates? Like something found in aspirin? Why? I mean, why? Why would they care about that? I could think of a lot of other things they should have tested for before that.
That's exactly what I'm thinking.
Let's continue. That's just confused why test for that. Yeah. Analysis by enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay. The ELISA. Let's see. Let's actually look out what all these tests are so we could kind of see how they're doing it. So for this one, they use the enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay is a commonly used analytical biochemistry assay, first described by Eva Engvall and Peter Perlman in 1971. The assays used a solid phase type of enzyme immunoassay to detect the presence of a liquid, and in a liquid sample using antibodies directed against the protein to be measured. So it's commonly used to detect antibodies in the blood. An antibody is a protein produced by the body's immune system when it detects harmful substances called antigens. Let's see. We have analyte benzodiazepines. So benzodiazepines is a class of drug which Xanax falls under, Valium, Klonopin, Ativan. Can't think. I think there's one more I can't think of. Then you have buprenorphine metabolite, which is Suboxone, is one of the brand names for that. For addiction, people take it coming off of opiates, heroin. You could take Suboxone to help you come off of it, but it is considered an opiate. But it's also an opioid agonist. It prevents other opioids from binding to opioid receptors in the nervous system. So it is an opiate, but also is like a blocker. And then it gives the reporting limits, but she didn't test positive for any of those. Then you have cocaine, opiates, oxycodone, and oxymorphone. And those are the reporting limits. But remember, we already saw what she tested positive for. These are just what they tested her for. So she didn't test positive for any of those. Let's look up, since we didn't look up the gas chromatography. Let's see what that test is. How they do that. It's kind of interesting to learn how they do these, huh? The gas chromatography is a common type of chromatography used in analytical chemistry for separating and analyzing compounds that can be vaporized without decomposition. Typical uses of GC include testing the purity of a particular substance or separating the different components of a mixture. So what else did we need? Oh, let's do this one. Let's see what that one, mass spectrometry. That is, mass spectrometry is an analytical tool useful for measuring the mass to charge ratio of one or more molecules present in a sample. These measurements can often be used to calculate the exact molecular weight of the sample components as well. So that's what those tests are. Okay, so, and then it says analysis of gas chromatography and mass spectrometry for the following is a general list of analyte classes, including in the gas chromatographic screen. The detection of any specific analyte is concentration dependent. No, not all known analytes included in each specified class are included. Some specific analytes outside of these classes are also included. For a detailed list of all analytes and reporting limits included in this screen, please contact NMS Labs.
Gotcha.
Amphetamines, analgesics, opioid and non-opioid, anoretics, antiarrhythmics, anticholinergics, anticonvulsants, antidepressants, antihistamines, antiparkinsonians, anticonvulsants, antidepressants,
3, 2, 1.
antihistamines, antiparkinsonians, antipsychotics, antitussives, antivirals, cardiovascular agents, non-digitalis, muscle relaxants, and stimulants, amphetamine-like, and others. So all those last things I named, that's not what they tested, but they're just naming some examples. Okay, so analysis, summary, and reporting limits. Analysis by gas chromatography and mass spectrometry. 4. The following is a general list of analyte classes included in the gas chromatographic screen. The detection of any specific analyte is concentration dependent. No, not all the analytes included in each specified class are included. Some specific analytes outside of these classes are also included. For a detailed list of all analytes and reporting limits included in this screen, please contact NMS Labs. So it's basically saying the same thing as up there, okay? Analysis by headspace gas chromatography. Analyte, acetone, ethanol, isopropanol, and methanol. It's just given the reporting limit. Okay, so Nevada Sheriff's Office, autopsy record. Rodni, Kiely May, 16, female, white. Case number, type of examination is RO. Date and time of examination, 8/23 at 8:30 hours. Okay, identifying characteristics, eyes unknown, hair blonde. Just quick side note, remember this report was on 8/23, so maybe at that time they didn't know the color of her eyes because her eyes were damaged from being submerged underwater, so they probably couldn't tell, and whoever is doing this report didn't know, so just wanted to make a point to say that. Height, 66 inches, weight, 103 pounds. The undersigned have made an examination. Find the cause of death to be drowning. So it says, immediate drowning. Doesn't have any due tos, doesn't have anything under the other significant conditions contributing to death, but not directly related to the cause listed above. Specimens taken, tox, stock tissue, and liver. Shanna Moon, Sheriff Coroner, Nevada County. We have Gregory Reber is the forensic pathologist. Okay, so Sheriff Coroner, Nevada County, Shanna Moon, Sheriff Coroner, Gregory Reber, pathologist. Report of autopsy. Kiely May Rodni, got case number, accession number. Date of autopsy is Tuesday, August 23rd. Time of autopsy is 8:30. It was basically 2 days after they found her. So we have 16, age, white, female, 66 inches, 103 pounds. Identification. A coroner's ID tag attached to the zipper pull of the body bag containing the decedent confirms the case number. Clothing. So the upper body is covered by a spaghetti strap black French cut bodysuit. So we see
So
she
there's the bodysuit.
had that on. She was found in the upper spaghetti strap black French cut bodysuit. A pair of black briefs are on the lower body as well. The lower body is also covered by green twill pants with a black belt through the belt loops bearing multiple rivets. So
Twill pants. I believe that's... they said green Dickies, but like Carhartt makes some like that. They're basically like work pants, but I know some girls, some high schoolers wear that shit. So
she's got her green pants. She's got that belt on. The belt appears buckled. A gray-green sneaker is on the right foot, along with a multicolored ankle-length sock. We got gray-green sneakers on the right foot, along with a multicolored ankle-length sock. A matching sneaker accompanies the body within the body bag. A matching left sock is inside the loose left sneaker. So you got the matching sneaker accompanies the body within the body bag. A matching left sock is inside the loose left sneaker. So it's just basically her shoe and her sock are off. They're inside the body bag, and one shoe's on. Except for the shoe being off of the left foot, the clothing appears relatively normal in position. I'll just highlight this too. So I'm just kind of highlighting some of the important stuff. So a lot of the stuff that when I went over the live that people asked multiple times, different people asked. So there's something they were interested in, they wanted to know. So personal property includes a white metal hoop through a piercing in the left ala nazi. So that's her nose. I looked it up. The ala nazi are the lateral portions of the nose or the wings of the nostrils, which particularly encircle the nostrils. So we have the piercing. So we know she had her nose pierced. The right ear has 3 white metal hoops through the helix and a small crescent moon-shaped stud earring through a piercing in the earlobe. Let me just bring this up real quick. When we went over that, if you see that it's basically what she was wearing in the surveillance. So black spaghetti strap, black French cut bodysuit, a pair of black briefs on the body, lower body as well. The lower body is also covered by green twill pants, because remember, these are green for Dickies. With a black belt through the belt loops bearing multiple rivets. So we've seen the rivets, the black fit belt that we've looked at many a times. The belt appears.
And I just want to pause here. I do have a copy of the report on my phone that Zav's going through right now, so I'm just kind of trying to follow along in the text where she's at and see if I catch anything different, because it's easier to follow on the document itself.
Here's buckled. A gray-green sneaker is on the right foot along with multicolored ankle-length socks. Of course, that doesn't look like a gray-green sneaker at all. That was one of the confusing things. It looks like either a white sandal with her foot halfway out. And like, you know what I'm saying? Like her toe maybe a little bit sticking out and that's just strap and a white sneaker. Or a shoe with like almost looks like a strap in a weird shape. I mean, I don't know. And then I think what this is her legs halfway bent.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not her foot we're seeing. Her knees bent back a little bit. So her foot would be kind of, we should see a little bit of it, but it is kind of blurry. So that's probably one of the weirder things. And then we have looks like her phone is in her pocket. You can kind of see the outline of her phone, in my opinion. And yeah, we'll probably need that picture in a little bit, actually. Okay, so the right ear has 3 white metal hoops through the helix and a small crescent moon-shaped stud earring through a piercing in the earlobe. Just to show, so here's her nose pierced. 3 metal hoops, yeah.
I mean, this is all great identifiers that she's picking out, the similarities and whatnot, but that's not scientific definite that is who it is. You know what I mean? So I still have an issue with DNA matching. Like, regardless, to me, DNA is scientific. That's just how we identify. DNA, dental records, whatever.
The left ear has a post through the helix, a small ball stud through the upper earlobe, and a crescent moon stud earring through the lower earlobe. The 3 yellow metal chains are around the neck, one of which has a small colorless stone, one of which has a small constellation-shaped pendant, and the third of which has a small disc-shaped pendant. So we have 3 yellow metal chains, which we have seen right here. So, where are we at? Yellow chains around the neck, one of which has a small colorless stone, one of which has a small constellation. So maybe that's the color stone, that's the small constellation. And the third, which has a small disc-shaped pendant. See, then how are they describing that? Because that's just a chain. And then these two. So that doesn't even line up to that. Because look, small constellation, which I think that's probably this, right? Colorless stone. I don't know, maybe this, but I know on some of them it looks like something a little different. And then this shaped pendant. Yeah. I don't know, those don't seem to be the three because this isn't described, but just looking into it. I mean, it doesn't, I'm not saying anything means anything. We don't always wear the same exact necklaces. The only reason I'm pointing out is because these are the necklaces they wanted us to pay attention to. But maybe that's what they're talking about because that's hooked onto it. But where is the constellation? That's probably the stone. Yeah, it doesn't look like it matches up to him, but it's hard to tell. Like I said, the only reason I'm pointing out is because they did make a point to keep an eye out for this jewelry. They did that press conference where they showed the jewelry. An open discolored yellow metal ring is on the left middle finger. So I know we can't see the left middle finger on this though, because her hand's down, but we can see her right two rings. But okay, so and a heavy darkened yellow metal ring is on the right finger. A heavy darkened yellow metal ring, heavy darkened yellow metal ring is on the right middle finger. So this is her middle finger. So it's probably this ring. Now this one is, they don't say she has two on the right, but maybe this one she put on her left hand at the time, the little one. Because the one that's on her left hand, it says an open discolored yellow metal ring. Open discolored yellow metal ring is on the left middle finger. We can't see her left hand, but maybe this one she put on her left middle finger for the night. This is the one on her right. They don't say anything about two on her right, but maybe this one transferred to her left middle one. I don't know. So we have an open discolored yellow metal ring on the left middle finger. Heavy darkened yellow metal ring is on the right middle finger. There are 5 bracelets on the right wrist. 5 right wrist, including a tan elastic band. And I'm just making a point because we went over these bracelets just to show what the conclusion was, okay? Because remember, we tried to see, oh, is those Sammy? Did she take them? Which I never thought that. I thought that would be silly for her to take them if she did do anything because, you know, why would you take them and then wear them around? It didn't seem logical or probable, but so there are 5 bracelets. You have the tan elastic band. And remember, these are all on her right wrist. A tan elastic band, which could be, I don't know, could be this one. I'm not sure though. A black fabric bracelet with printed logo. I don't know, I guess it could be this black fabric right here, right? A bracelet consisting of multiple black strings bearing a small disc-shaped pendant with an engraved letter P or D. I mean, it could be these, all of these wrapped around. I mean, of course, we can't see the pendant, but I know we don't know what's under there. The 4th bracelet is a light colored beaded bracelet, which that's the one. This bead.
Yeah, I'm just gonna hop in again because I'm sure you guys are like, well, he's not really making any comments. Well, I'm pretty much letting Zav give you her analysis in this portion of it with the clothing, the identifiers, the different things, because I'm just, again, stuck on DNA. And say what you want. We'll probably never get DNA if Dad doesn't want to do a DNA test to try to confirm or whatever. Like, that's all between them. It is what it is. But I won't accept for a fact that it's her just based on, oh, similar piercings, oh, the metal hip deal that she has in there, which I believe we're going to get to. I'm obviously reading from the autopsy on my phone. But the hip is, that's a possible identifier. But again, it was serial numbers, stuff like that. Like, you know, if make that clear, if she this is not Kiely, and either the body was replaced or they found somebody else or whatever, planted of some sort in any way, shape, or form. It's just possibilities that are out there. Yeah, it's you got to match the serial number, dude. They might be smart enough to make sure that they get a cadaver that has the same type of implant. I don't know. It's all possible. So
beaded one, that Sammy has the same one. So we see that she was found with it, so Sammy didn't take her bracelets. And then the fifth is a blue-green plastic. And the fifth is a blue-green elastic band engraved with the lettering Bianchi in a Lifetime Sea Otter Classic. So blue-green. So that one you can't really tell. Oh, we have the wrong one. Hold on. The blue-green, I have no idea. I mean, it's... You can't see. I don't know if she doesn't have it on or... It's just hard to see what's all...
Does look like she has a
there.
red wristband on there.
A discolored string anklet is around the right ankle.
On the left.
A piercing in the umbilicus, which is the belly button, which we saw. She has that on her. Right there, belly button pierced. Okay. So, piercing on the umbilicus bears a white metal curved post with a small ball on one end and a white and orange metal disc on the other end. The orange metal disc portion has a central yellow stone. Engraving around the stone on the orange metal part of the jewelry reads Winchester 38. So people sent examples of that, but so we see
so it's
white metal curved post with a small ball on one end and a white and orange metal disc. Small ball on one end and a white and orange metal disc. Okay.
Any country boys out there, anybody that's been around guns knows, like, in certain styles, that's a thing. Like, I had a belt with shotgun shells on it and shit like that. Like, they just cut off the end of old shells and stuff and put them on different apparel accessories.
Okay. The orange metal disc portion has a central yellow stone. Central yellow stone right here. And then engraved around the stone on the orange metal part is where it says Winchester 38 around here. So it's the exact one she's wearing, you could tell. Okay, so report of autopsy. Evidence of medical intervention, none. External examination. The unembalmed body is that of a slender white female in a state of moderate decomposition. There is generalized sloughing of epidermis, except for portions of plantar skin which readily separate from the bottoms of the feet and bear multiple toenails. A separately submitted segment of sloughed epidermis from one of the hands also bears a single thumbnail. There is mild bloating of the body and generalized discoloration of the exposed dermis, ranging from the pale gray, green to dark maroon. There is no remaining rigor mortis and no lividity pattern is discernible. A strong odor decomposition surrounds the remains. No post-mortem insect activity is present.
Oh, God, man, just a side comment on what I'm kind of thinking there. Like, I give coroners a whole lot of credit because it takes a special type of person to be around that shit. Dude, the odor alone, I couldn't imagine.
The subject is normal cephalic. There is no apparent external head trauma. The scalp hair is almost completely sloughed due to decomposition and consists of wavy blonde hair up to 22 inches in maximum length. And we went over that because, so we checked into that because the whole thing about people thinking the surveillance wasn't Kiely because of, like, the hair length, maybe, because we know in her graduation picture she had longer hair, so we're like, did she get her hair cut? Because in the surveillance it looks shorter, but Sifa sent us a nice graph of the length of hair. So 22 inches, which is what it says, 22 inches. Wavy blonde hair up to 22 inches in maximum length. would be about right here, almost like mid upper arm. Okay. Now, let me show you. I personally think it matches pretty close because look, you can see the hair. I think it goes down about mid-arm. Look, it does. And like, you don't know how long it is in back because this is just, we can't see how far it hangs out in back. We see this. We see maybe, I don't even know if that's necessarily her hair or
I'd
shadow,
say 18
but
to 20 probably.
most of it's hanging in back. So there
18 to
might be
20
just
inches.
like a bend, like it could be like going like, oh, you can't see my hair. I forgot I'm not on video, but it could be like, you know, all behind her shoulder there, and then a little bit is like folding over. Also, she could have layers where it's shorter up front and longer in the back a little bit because she could have layers. Actually, hold on one second. Okay, so we were looking at these pictures. So this is a graduation, but then the party
Damn, her hair's long as
was
fuck
months
there.
later after graduation. She definitely could have got a haircut, but Autumn pointed this out. Look, you could see the short
they don't look like
layers are short, way shorter than the longest part.
Could be extensions, maybe.
So
Girls do that kind of shit.
we see that she has layers, right? And it says up to 22 inches on this. So the longest, they're saying the longest part is 22 inches, but she could have got her haircut, kept it a little bit shorter up front, and that's what we're seeing when it does look, you know, somewhat shorter, but I still think that could still fit in the 22 inches. Maybe a little bit shorter up front, and then the longest part's 22 inches. I think that could fit her hair length for sure. Okay, so let's continue. Okay. Highlight that part up to 22 inches and maximum length. The facial features are distorted by decomposition and postmortem positioning. The eyes are discolored from decomposition, although there is definition between the corneas and the conjunctiva. The interior chambers of the eyes are discolored from decomposition, and original color of the irises and definition of the pupils is obscured. The conjunctiva vary from pale maroon to pale green. The soft tissues of the nose appear normally developed but distorted from decomposition. Both nares are patent. There is no palpable nasal fracture. Other midfacial bones are also palpably intact. The ears are softened from decomposition but appear symmetrical. A small amount of fluid is present at the right external auditory meatus, apparently from decomposition. There is no apparent discharge from the left ear. The teeth are natural and in good condition. There is discoloration of the crowns of the teeth, which have a pale pink stain from decomposition. The oral mucous membranes show deterioration from decomposition with partial sloughing. This results in partial exposure of the anterior mandible and maxilla. These changes all appear consistent with the postmortem decomposition rather than trauma. There are no obvious intraoral injuries. A small amount of purge fluid is collected in the mouth. The lips are softened from decomposition and show loss of surface epithelium, but are otherwise unremarkable. The neck has a slender symmetrical exterior contour without evidence of injury. The cervical spine is easily mobilized due to decomposition, but is palpably stable. The larynx and trachea are palpably midline. The chest is symmetrical and the chest wall is palpably stable. The breasts are normally developed adolescent female without palpable masses. The abdomen is slightly distended due to postmortem tissue gas formation, but has a symmetrical external contour and shows no evidence of external injury. The external genitalia are normally developed adolescent female with a closely trimmed pubic hair pattern. Speculum examination reveals no evidence of introital or vaginal trauma. There appears to be a cervical cap-type device within the vaginal vault. The perianal skin shows discoloration from decomposition and is otherwise unremarkable. The upper and lower extremities are symmetrical and normally developed and show no apparent external trauma. An area of postmortem change on the left wrist at the radial side is about 4.5 centimeters by 1.5 centimeters, where there is splitting of the exposed dermis, which exposes underlying soft tissue. The margins of this area are smooth, and the area is consistent with dehiscence of surgical scar. So I just wanted to know what wound dehiscence meant. So when an incision reopens, wound dehiscence occurs when a surgical incision reopens either internally or externally. It's also known simply as dehiscence. Although this complication can occur after any surgery, it tends to happen most often following abdominal or cardiothoracic procedures. It's commonly associated with a surgical site infection. Dehiscence usually takes place within 3 to 10 days of surgery. Dehiscence can be identified by the feeling of a sudden pulling pain. If you're concerned about possible dehiscence, check how your wound is healing. Why would a wound reopen? And there's just like a bunch of reasons. Well, it says men are more likely than women to experience dehiscence. Okay. So you guys could pause this if you want to read some of these reasons why it may happen. Just wanted to, I like to know what different terms mean when I'm reading them. So the margins of this area are smooth and the area is consistent with dehiscence of a surgical scar. There is no discoloration suggestive of antemortem hemorrhage. Epidermis from both hands has been previously lost from decomposition along with the fingernails. The toenails have also separated with the macerated and slough plantar skin from both feet. The back is symmetrical and the spine is palpably stable at the midline. There is no visible trauma on the back. Scars and identifying marks. A small stipple tattoo of the number 17 is on the lateral right hip. There is a vaguely defined longitudinal linear surgical scar on the ventral left wrist. Postmortem radiographic scan demonstrates an orthopedic plate and multiple screws in the distal left radius. External evidence of injury. There is no apparent blunt or penetrating injury seen externally. Postmortem radiographic scan of the whole body also demonstrates no evidence of acute skeletal trauma. Internal evidence of injury, none. Internal examination. Opening and incision in body cavities. The standard Y-shaped thoracoabdominal incision reveals a subcutaneous fat thickness of 1.3 centimeters at mid-abdomen. The pleural, pericardial, and peritoneal surfaces are smooth. No excess fluid or blood is found in the body cavities. The internal organs are normally arranged. Neck organs. The anterior soft tissue of the neck showed discoloration from decomposition and marked softening. There are no apparent strap muscle hemorrhages. The hyoid bone and laryngeal cartilages show no fractures. The cervical spine is grossly intact. Cardiovascular system. The heart weighs 90 grams and appears normally formed. The epicardial surface is smooth with a normal fat distribution. The myocardium is soft, moderately decomposed, and light red-brown. There are no obvious myocardial lesions. The ventricular walls appear relatively normal in thickness, and the cardiac chamber is normal in size, considering the state of preservation. The endocardial surfaces and valves show light staining from decomposition and are otherwise unremarkable. The coronary ostia are patent. The coronary arteries appear patent and normal in distribution. Dominance is uncertain. The aorta is patent. Follows a normal course and shows light orange discoloration from decomposition. Respiratory system. The right lung weighs 100 grams and the left lung weighs 110 grams.
So I want to pause there, guys, because there's been debate about it, but one of the other things I noticed this time looking through the autopsy is the heart was 90 grams. And just being a strictly numbers guy and thinking about the size of the heart versus the size of the lungs, from what I understand, even though the heart is more dense, I would be curious to know if it seems like a legitimate ratio between heart and lungs. 90 grams versus 100 and 110. Do you see where I'm getting at there? I understand that the lungs are probably less dense, more hollow, stuff like that, but I just thought about that being... I would be curious to hear from a doctor whether or not that seems like a proper ratio. Maybe when we go over some of Dr. Latina's analysis of this stuff, she might be able to clear that up, or maybe she clears it up. I'm not aware that she does, but definitely if there's actual doctors out there that can then drop some sort of link, because obviously we know anybody can pretend to be anyone in the comments section or anywhere for that matter, but I would appreciate some sort of hard evidence as to anybody's knowledgeable on the ratio between heart weight versus lung weight. So Just a thought I had.
Pleural surfaces are smooth, and the lungs are light maroon and gray tan. No anthracotic markings are seen. The lung parenchyma is moderately decomposed, soft and maroon in color. There are no apparent focal parenchymal lesions. Prominent tissue gas formation distorts the parenchymal architecture of both lungs.
And these kind of words that she's reading off right now, this is a big reason why, like, obviously Zav looks up some definitions here or there, and she kind of helps us understand it. But that's where a doctor, any doctor in the medical field, would really help in reading through this. Because even if they don't specialize in being forensic or whatever the terms are for, like, coroner type people looking at dead bodies, the terminology would still be helpful to try to decipher, because we all know that medical terminology is definitely not plain English. They have a lot of scientific terms that many of us, especially myself, are not aware of all the meanings.
Lungs. The larynx, trachea, and bronchi are patent and normally formed. Airway and mucosal surfaces are smooth, light gray tan. There is no apparent airway obstruction. The pulmonary arteries appear normally developed and patent throughout. So yes, it's weird. There's no water in the lungs. At least they omitted that if there was. It doesn't say there's water in the lungs. So yes, it is very weird. Now that I have had time to let everything sink through and make sure that we didn't miss anything and go through stuff and understand things, I don't understand why there was none. So I'm trying to figure out what other reasons did they find to make them conclude it was a drowning. So I'm trying to research a little bit on that. And then the lungs are lighter than average. So I want to point something out here. So after I saw this article right here, where they're trying to get normal weights in women. So the study was designed to address the issue and to determine a normal weight for the major organs in adult females. A prospective study was undertaken of healthy females who had sudden traumatic deaths at age 18 to 35 years. Cases were excluded if there was a history of medical illness, including illicit drug use. Prolonged medical treatment was performed. There was prolonged period between the time of the injury and death. So that they're excluded if there was this, right? Or body length and weight could not be accurately assessed, or if any illness or intoxication was identified after gross and microscopic analysis, including evidence of systematic disease, or there's a significant injury. Here, I'll highlight it. If there's a significant injury that could have affected the weight, a total of 102 cases met criteria for inclusion in the study during the approximate 10-year period of data collection in 2004 to 2014. The decedents have an average of 24.4 years and range in length from 142 to 182 centimeters, with an average length of 160 centimeters, 64 inches. Average weight is 143 pounds. The major of the decedents died of either ballistic or blunt force injuries. Okay, so we just want to look at the lungs right now. The right lung mean weight is 340 and the left lung is 299, okay? So normally the right lung is bigger than the left lung. That's how we're made. That's our anatomy, right? So that's why it's bigger. That's why the right is 340, the left is 299. So yeah, this is the mean of all the females all the subjects of this study. The mean weight is 340 grams, but the range was which means the smallest was 142 and the biggest was 835 grams. So the mean of all of them together were 340 grams. So if you see, Kiely is even on the lower end is a 142 and hers is even lighter than the lowest. And the left lung mean is 299 grams and the range is 108 to 736, okay? So the left lung is smaller, and if you look, it is. Humans have two lungs, a right lung and a left lung. They are situated within the thoracic cavity of the chest. The right lung is bigger than the left, which shares space in the chest with the heart. The lungs together weigh approximately 1.3 kilograms, 2.9 pounds, and the right is heavier. So the right should be heavier because the left has to share its space with the heart. Okay? But look. So remember that. Left. Well, just remember the right should be bigger, okay? The right should be bigger, but... So you see one lung and one lung. The left lung should be a little bit smaller because the heart So I'll just read this right here. The right lung is larger and weighs more than the left lung. Since the heart tilts to the left lung is smaller than the right and has an indentation called the cardiac impression to accommodate the heart. This indentation shapes the inferior and anterior parts of the superior lobe into a thin tongue-like process called lingual. So left lung should be smaller. The right lung should be bigger. In Kiely's, the right is smaller and the left is bigger. Why is that? It's kind of strange, huh? Anyway, just something I wanted to point out. There are some other things I did notice too, but like I said, I'm just trying to research a little bit more. I'm not going to include them in here, but some other weird things when it comes to like drowning and her results. So we'll go over those during the open panel. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out. Let's get back to the document. Gastrointestinal system. The esophagus and stomach are patent, continuous, and normally developed. The mucosal surfaces are softened, pale purple tan to yellow tan with a decomposed appearance. No focal lesions are evident. The stomach contains a trace amount of particulate food material consistent with small fragments of peas or beans. The duodenum, small intestines, appendix, and colon show discoloration, softening, and focal gas bloating from decomposition and are otherwise unremarkable. So, Dr.
That's how my memory works. I remember random shit like that. Duodenum. Like, I'm not in the medical field. I just think I remember that from like a high school biology class or something because it was an interesting word.
Dr. Amy Solano pointed out how there was no liquid in her stomach. So, like, if she was drinking like everybody said, why wasn't there alcohol in her stomach? Why wasn't there liquid? Right? The only thing in her stomach was small fragments of peas or beans.
Oh, no, I know. I remember duodenum because my doctor told me about it when I had some analyses done because I have acid reflux.
So she found that kind of weird. Just because what we heard about how she was drinking and was drunk that night. And also, why wasn't there liquid in her stomach if she drowned? Because wouldn't she have swallowed some water from drowning? The more I'm researching autopsies and drowning and stuff, the more I'm thinking it doesn't look like drowning. But I'm still going to research a little more, so I'll probably do the open panel tomorrow because I'm still trying to finish editing this so I could research some more on drowning and stuff. Pancreas. The pancreas is small but appears normal in location. The parenchyma is moderately decomposed, soft and yellow tan. A lobular pattern is maintained and there are no apparent lesions. Hepatobiliary system. The liver weighs 400 grams and appears normal in shape, though diminished in size from decomposition. The capsule is intact and smooth. The parenchyma is softened, dark gray-brown, with a decomposed appearance, blurring the expected lobular architecture. No focal lesions are apparent. The gallbladder is normally formed. There is no measurable bile. Gallbladder mucosa is unremarkable and the bile ducts appear patent. Genitourinary system. The right kidney weighs 50 grams, the left kidney weighs 70 grams. The capsules strip with ease, and the cortical surfaces are smooth. Softened red-brown. Section reveals blurring of the parenchymal architecture from decomposition, with some preservation of the expected pattern. No focal lesions are identified. The pelvis and ureters appear normal. The urinary bladder is normally developed and empty. There you go. If she was drinking a bunch, like Sammy said and everybody was saying, what would the bladder really be empty? Oh, I guess no. Never mind. She could have went.
Excreted.
You know, a lot of people go after they pass away.
Yep. Something you find out about dogs too.
Sorry.
That sounds crude. But
it shows maroon discoloration from decomposition. The internal genitalia are softened and maroon colored from decomposition, but otherwise appear unremarkable. A diva cup is found in the upper vaginal vault, containing a small amount of menstrual fluid. A T-shaped plastic intrauterine device is also found within the endometrial cavity. So I've been getting a lot of backlash for reading this stuff, some of this stuff, but I do think it is very important to show that she had an intrauterine device and that she was menstruating, because there is a lot of people and a lot of rumors going around that she was pregnant. And if you know anything about my channel, I like to debunk some of this false information going around if I can.
side note to that, like, props to Zab for debunking that kind of stuff if she's hearing it in the sphere of a case or whatever. But I really do not understand people's obsession with starting rumors.
And I've done it with all the cases. If there's something going around and then I could try to
Especially on
prove
dead
it
people.
otherwise, and that there's at least a lot of people that think this, that it's worth putting it out there and trying to disprove it and debunk it, it is important because there's thousands of people that are going around thinking she's pregnant. So it's very important to show she was menstruating, because when you're pregnant, it's
Shit's
not
just
very
sick,
common
though.
for you to still
Just
have
sick.
a period,
People
okay?
that start them
And then
rumors, I mean.
to show that she had an IUD, which even double decreases.
To any of the people that feel the need to start rumors, especially about dead people, you're pathetic. Straight up, you're pathetic.
The chance that she was pregnant, okay? So it is important, you guys. Lymphorecticular system. The spleen weighs 40 grams and appears normally formed. The capsule is thin and slightly wrinkled. The parenchyma is softened, partially liquefied, and gray and purple. No distinction between red and white pulp can be seen due to decomposition. The thymus is partially decomposed and otherwise unremarkable. No lymphadenopathy is identified. Endocrine system. The thyroid is severely decomposed and difficult to identify. The adrenals are markedly softened from decomposition, and much of the architecture is lost. The pituitary is severely softened from decomposition. Skeletal system. No acute skeletal injury is found on gross and radiographic examination. Dissection of the left wrist confirms the presence of orthopedic hardware attached to the ventral surface of the distal radius, consistent of a stainless steel 2-column volar plate held in place by multiple screws. Head. Reflection of the scalp reveals light maroon staining of the deep scalp tissues predominantly on the right side, consistent with lividity under the effects of decomposition. The skull is intact and normal in thickness. The dura is smooth and intact. There is no evidence of epidural or subdural hemorrhage. The removal of the dura reveals no skull fractures.
So what I'm getting from the whole head analysis, like if you were to think that she was knocked out or abducted or any of that sort of thing, there's no evidence in the autopsy. There's no damage to the skull in any way that it sounds like.
The brain weighs 1,000 grams. There is severe decomposition of the brain with generalized softening and blurring of the external pattern of gyri and soci. Sectioning reveals loss of definition of the internal parenchymal landmarks from decomposition. There is no evidence of intraparenchymal hemorrhage. Materials for toxicology, liver tissue. Materials for histology. Sections of the major organs are saved as stock tissue. Postmortem photographs taken, Dr. Reber and Detective Walker. Postmortem x-rays, AP Lodox scan. Evidence, head hair, pubic brushings, oral and rectal swabs and smears, cervical, vaginal and introital swabs, and smears and DNA card. Autopsy assist.
So her DNA was taken. In this autopsy, that body has a DNA record. So it's out there. It can be matched. Just saying.
Destiny J. Moffat, Brittany Brand, and Chrissy Myers. Okay, so we got witnesses, Detective Josie Stragan and Detective Caleb Walker, Nevada County Sheriff's Department, Tamika McCain and Michelle Ramirez, FBI, Louise Montes de Oca, Truckee Area CHP. Autopsy findings, decedent found in submerged vehicle, which was recovered from inverted position in lake. A. Postmortem changes consistent with prolonged water submersion. B. Moderate postmortem decomposition. No external or internal evidence of significant injury. 3. Postmortem toxicology on liver tissue positive for ethanol, possibly all or part from decomposition. So what they're saying is postmortem toxicology on liver tissue positive for ethanol. So that result, possibly all or
Key word, possibly.
part from decomposition. They've got nicotine and continine, caffeine, and delta-9 carboxy THC. 4 is radiographic scan showing orthopedic hardware, 2-column volar plate from open repair at distal left radius. Cause of death, drowning. Signed by Gregory Reber, MD, forensic pathologist, on 10/3/22. Okay, that's it, guys. Like I said, if you want to kind of more in depth, you can watch my live from last night. Actually, I haven't slept yet. Right after the live, I got a snack, and I just got a cup of coffee, and I decided to stay up all night and do this for
Props
y'all.
to you
And
guys that do that shit.
so yeah,
Jesus Christ, I
like
need
I
my
said, the
sleep.
last night's live is a little bit more in depth. I had Dr. Latina come on, Dr. Amy Solano. She gave us her expertise. She also is going to look over it again and see what else she finds. Okay, so I ended up, staying up all night that night after the live to record this. And then the next day, I was like, I'm going to take a little nap before I finish editing this. And I fell asleep all the way through till today. So the whole point of staying up all night to get this out yesterday for you was pointless. Gosh darn it. So, in case you're confused about, wait, there was no live last night. I'm talking about the original live. Because like I said, when I recorded it, it was that night, Okay. Just wanted to add that in there. So yeah, the positive results though, toxicology came back, like I said, ethanol, but possibly all or part of that positive result of what they found of ethanol is from decomposition. So it could be all of it, but maybe it's just a part of that 88 milligrams. But 88 milligrams isn't that much anyway. And we know from decomposition, you get a buildup of ethanol, so that all might have been from that. At least some of it was from the buildup of the ethanol from decomposition. So it doesn't leave much alcohol in her system. Doesn't seem like she was all drunk like everybody was saying. So I thought that was interesting. Like I said, they didn't test for mushrooms. I wish they would have because, we know that was going around in the party. And if she wasn't drunk,
I would be awful curious to see what they can show with mushrooms, considering that it's, organic fungi compound. Like, if they can actually prove whether or not somebody's taken mushrooms in an autopsy, because I know drug test-wise, like, that's something that's not commonly found, but I guess some of the more advanced tests do show it.
Drunk, was there anything else that was causing her to kind of have basically where maybe she would have drove into the reservoir by accident? If she wasn't drunk, how did she drive in by accident? Unless if maybe there was other drugs in her system. Other drugs in her system they didn't test for that made her possibly drive into the reservoir. So did she take some of those mushrooms that she was hallucinating and that made her accidentally drive into the water? But why didn't anybody say? Why didn't Sammy say that? Was Sammy scared? So she just said drinking because she was afraid to say that she did mushrooms. I don't know why she would. I mean, why did she say she was so wasted she could barely drive that she would crash? She wouldn't be able to make it home. She would crash. She wouldn't get very far if she wasn't drunk. Was she under the influence of something else? Why didn't Sammy say that? So they didn't test for the psilocybin, which would have been the active ingredients in mushrooms. So basically what they would have needed to test for to see if there's mushrooms in her system. And I looked it up, and the psilocybin is a specialized test. I mean, they would have had to request a special test for that. And I guess it can be kind of expensive. I'm not sure how expensive, but it says it is expensive. I think it's important to maybe spend the money to see, because we know, well, at least if they talk to the kids and the kids said that was going around,
I agree with Zav as far as psilocybin goes, or any hallucinogen for that matter. Like, if you're hallucinating, that would definitely support the accidental possibility, theory, story, whatever, which is pretty much what everybody seems to be going with in the mainstream is accidental drowning. I don't know if I'm satisfied by that, but it's not saying I've ruled it out. I'm just saying a lot of things are suspicious. But yeah, hallucinogenics, psilocybin, like what she's talking about, would definitely be potential. The other added thing is, depending on what all they tested for, we kind of covered the basics of what they tested for, but everything is laced nowadays. And when I say everything, I'm generalizing. But so even your mushrooms can be laced with whatever, be it fentanyl, be it other hallucinogens, LSD, whatever the hell. You don't know. I'm just throwing names out there. But you know what I mean? Yeah, yeah, it's just, it's another unknown.
There's a chance that she might have taken it, right? Since people were taking it there. I think it'd be important enough to spend the money to test for it, just to see, like, what influence was she under? Was it something that could have caused her to drive into the water, or was there no reason that she should have done that, you know? So, but yeah, you can test for
It's
it.
interesting.
It's just a specialized test, and
Anything
it's
can be an
expensive,
accident,
they
guys.
said.
I'm not
They
saying
also
it's
didn't
not.
test for a lot. There's a lot of drugs out there that possibly could be in her system, but they didn't. They only tested for those ones that we went over, which wasn't a ton. What was it? Opiates. And then they got more specific and tested for oxymorphone and oxycontin, cocaine. This is what they tested, but she only came positive for these ones here. Ethanol, nicotine, continine, which is a metabolite of nicotine. So she's smoking or vaping. Caffeine or delta, or basically weed and caffeine. And like I said, ethanol, which is the alcohol, but the reported limit is 80 milligrams, right? Which is the minimum amount that has to be in your system, that has to basically register for it to be positive. She only tested 88 for ethanol. I know I keep saying that, but this is important because some of that, if not all, is due to decomposition. And then, yeah, caffeine, nicotine, and THC. Those are the positives. And then the ones they tested, all the other ones they tested that wasn't positive is cocaine, negative, opiates, negative, which fentanyl is an opiate. So it should have came up under opiates, but these systems aren't perfect. So they should have tested specifically for fentanyl, yes.
Fentanyl just happens to be the most commonly reported thing, and we're having a huge issue across the United States with that. So let's be clear, anybody who's aware of different lacings and anything with drugs and stuff like that, or have friends that do stuff or whatever, however you know about it, knows that there's any range of things that can be lacing agents, or I'm tripping over my words, obviously, but you get what I mean. You can lace a drug with anything, more or less.
I do. I believe they should have, because how freaking rampant it is, and it's in like every drug people are putting it in. So yeah, do I think they should have? Yeah, but I mean, what are we gonna do now? They didn't. I wonder if they could go back if they did save some of the tissue. Maybe they can. Maybe we could put a petition to test. But it doesn't make sense if they didn't.
Yeah, I'm looking back at the tests that were ran and what not, like benzodiazepines and cannabinoids and cocaine, opiates, you know, buprenorphine, yeah, I'm not even going to try to say it, but norphamine or whatever. But none of that's psychedelics that I'm aware of. Cocaine, opiates, oxycodone, whatever. Like, yeah, man. Psychedelics would be a big one for sure. And I don't believe it's a commonly tested thing.
You're right. Why would they specifically test this for oxycodone and oxymorphone? Fentanyl's the big one. Fentanyl's the one that is killing people left and right, and they're putting it in all drugs. So yeah, they definitely should have. That should have been their number one thing that they tested. I agree. Okay, everybody, I'm going to end this. We'll do an open panel either today, later on, or tomorrow. Not sure yet. All right, let me know what you guys think.
Okay, so that's basically the end, guys. So, conclusion here, guys. Zav did a great job of covering the basics for us non-medical folks and whatnot. As far as into the in-depth medical terms and different things and a doctor's perspective, I believe I will be doing, as I mentioned, more in-depth with Dr. Latina that Zav had on one of her lives. That's much longer, so I wanted to start here to get the basis first, and then I'll probably cherry pick from there, or just include the whole thing and then maybe cherry pick afterwards. We'll see how I kind of do it. But yeah, so got notes. You know how it goes. I'm gonna read from my notes and then kind of make some commentary on it. I just noted that the report date was 10/11/22. I believe that's the sheriff's report that I noted. In regards to the autopsy, I can pull the autopsy back up so I can review it as we're going, because I do have it on my phone here. So it's from Nevada County Sheriff's Office. Shannon Moon is the sheriff coroner, as we covered, and date of injury is August ?22 is how they covered it. I find that interesting because to me that goes more to the open case stuff, more to the we don't really know. It's presumed an accident, but I don't believe the investigation is finished. I believe the FBI is still looking into it, and we probably will never know the details unless for some reason we're able to catch bits and pieces from a court case, if there ever is one, or any of that kind of stuff, or it might just go to a cold case. Who knows? But I'd like to be fairly clear. I am of the opinion that this is going to be looked into more. Just because the autopsy is concluded does not mean that they're done investigating. So, yeah, Lindsay's noted on here as a relative. Interesting that they didn't put the dad down, but family dynamics and whatnot. Private dive company as we had. So Mackey's the one that wrote the general report that we observed early on. Deputy Mackey. Time of death to be stated was 8:33 p.m. 8/21/2022. I noted a question mark there because we don't know what the time of death is. That time, I do believe, is at the time of when they were doing the report, or the time when they recovered the body. Not, well, actually, I believe it's the time they were doing the report, because 21. Yeah, anyway, regardless. It's not overly important. All I'm pointing out is I have not, obviously she didn't die on 8/21. We all know that. So, we don't have a time of death? That's odd. Am I the only one that thinks it's odd we don't have a time of death? Isn't that like one of the purposes of autopsy in general? That was my understanding in general. Cause of death he had noted under investigation. Which I do want to find that back on the report now. So, under cause of... where does she find under investigation? I'm not sure, because under coroner final report of investigation, it says cause of death drowning, which, I mean, we all knew they were kind of putting it down as accidental drowning, and that was noted off... Oh, okay, so cause of death under investigation pending forensic pathologist report, which we all have. Okay. That's why it was that way. So, now, everybody that's involved here, investigators, different police departments, I found from the report we have Truckee Police, then we climb to the county level, which is Placer and Nevada County. Let's see if I get this right. Nevada County is actually where the death occurred. Placer County is where... I believe they took the body to investigate, but I know Placer was assisting. California Highway Patrol, CHP, was involved in this as well. That's our state level, and then we have the FBI at the national level also involved. I don't really need to read out a lot of the names, honestly. Besides Dr. Gregory Reber being the MD that performed the autopsy, I don't think most of them are relevant. I just noted them for possible refer back. If I find other information that makes that something relevant, then it's at least in my notes and easy for me to find. So Detective Sonner spoke with Reber. So Detective Sonner is one of the people involved in this investigation from the police end of things, from what I understood there. And because of what Detective Sonner told Dr. Gregory Reber, they ruled it accidental because he didn't find any evidence of foul play or any of that sort of thing. No indication of foul play is what I noted down. So, again, my conclusion without doctors looking into this right now, or without getting a doctor's perspective kind of analyzing this autopsy, my conclusion is simply that I find it odd that cause of death was more based on investigation of the area. You see what I'm saying? Cause of death being based on no indication of foul play is just odd. You know? So I just wanted to stick that out there. We also have one other thing. Well, one of the main other things that I took down is the heart is 90 grams, the right lung is 100 grams, the left lung is 110 grams. There was talk about the lungs and whatnot, but the big part that sticks out to me here is like, is that the proper ratio of a heart to lung? 90 grams versus 100 grams? You know what I mean? It seems odd. And obviously we already talked about the fact that the right and left lung are flip-flopped. Usually the right lung weighs more than the left lung, but in this case it's 10 grams different, and the left lung weighs more, being the indent for the heart, you know? So there's that. I'd be curious on the ratio. Again, any doctors that can throw me links, no disrespect to you and your credentials, but this is YouTube comment section, Rumble comment section, wherever you happen to be. And I don't put a lot of weight on random comments that just state things without putting evidence forward. I want to be clear in facts. I don't want to restate hearsay or even just plain fucking lying. So if you are a doctor, great. Thank you for being here and thank you for watching. And if you know, please try to pull some sort of medical research document, please. Please, please, please. That shows me something along the lines of the ratio between the heart and the lungs. I may as well be digging into anything that I can find to kind of clarify on that. And that just goes to any of possibilities. Organ trafficking is another thing that's ran through my head on top of human trafficking and whatever else, kidnapping and stuff. I don't believe it was accidental. There's a lot of questions here that are leaning me towards other motive, and I'm trying to find what that other motive may be. So there's that. And then we have the averages. So the lung size thing that's been brought up, and Dr. Latino might clear some things up on that, but based on my amateur view of numbers, I'm looking at 100 and 110, and we got 340 of an average for the right, which she had 100, and 299 an average of the left, which her left was 110. That was the averages that Zav talked about in there. And the low end is 142 for the right. She was 100. So it's, you know, we're good 40 points off there, you know. Good 42 points off, actually. 42 grams. And the other one, it's within range. 110 and 108 is the low end. Sorry, excuse me. Every time I'm trying to get information out, I gotta have hiccups and shit. Or at least give you guys my opinion anyways. And finally, the last bits that I noted, there was no liquid in the stomach, no liquid in the lungs. Per drowning, that's just odd. It's really odd. How do you drown without inhaling water? Per Zav's opinion, I don't know. I mean, I guess I trust her word to say that, you know, more than likely there would be liquid in the stomach. It makes sense. You could swallow water and whatnot, but I don't necessarily put as much weight on that as the inhaling water into your lungs, dude. Like, how is there no water in the lungs? Just doesn't make sense to me. And then the last note, DNA was taken. So it's noted on the autopsy that DNA was taken. So if we wanted hard evidence, and I know I talked about the hip, God, I can't think today with the hip insert, the hip replacement, whatever. She had a metal hip piece was in there. There's serial numbers on those. I believe they're unique to each individual. At a bare minimum, you could track it to the manufacturer. You could probably track it down to the hospital, and thus possibly the patient if the hospital has those kind of records of a serial number going directly to a person. But that's just a long way when really all it would take is taking the already swabbed or sampled DNA from this body and matching it to, a parent. I'm not super scientific if it has to be the dad necessarily. I've heard the dad mention an awful lot, but maybe that's just because Lindsay doesn't want to do it. I don't know, man. Not my place. Don't care. Not playing the drama game. Just looking at facts and giving you my perspective. So, yeah, man. I would feel much more comfortable with a DNA thing to say for sure that it's Kiely, but overall, there's questions here. Certain things that make me kind of lean towards organ trafficking potentially, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, that's my take. Y'all like this reaction? Go ahead. Reaction, investigation, my piece, my perception. Go ahead and hit that like button down below. Thank you guys for commenting, sharing, subscribing. All opinions, all viewpoints, all facts are greatly welcome. Remember, if you're going to call it fact, I'm only going to believe you if you can reference something. Give me a video that has somebody talking about it, that has some sort of credentials that you can prove, or documents, or whatever. I'm down for all of it. My Instagram's available. I have a link tree up on all my videos now on my YouTube channel. I've tried to make sure that I drop ways to contact me as far as information goes. If you have useful stuff, go for it. So, you can check me out on all platforms. There's a link tree. Check it out. Catch y'all in the next one. Thanks for watching. Peace.